and welcome back to a very merry Saturday morning What the Falk review show. We all woke up with a little bit more vigour this morning as the lads picked up a big 3 points with a 2-1 win over Sheffield Wednesday, thanks to Elias Melander. He hates Sam Fender. He plays up front for Sunderland. It's not been the easiest of weeks, but we're all absolutely buzzing to get tucked into chatting about a massive win. So without further ado, joining me today, as always, is Dave Lawrence. Dave, how are you? Look, we need to start making this a video podcast because you literally have shaved to the point where you look like an egg.
It's just a tribute to Ross because he's not here this week. We've done well, and you've absolutely, by pointing out the fact that I look like an egg. My intro this week was going to be welcome back to another episode. Oh no, I'm not hosting this week, so you've absolutely murdered it. But I thought I'd get in there anyway. I'm sure everyone's glad to have you back. We're certainly, well, I'm glad to have you back. I'm not sure Peter and Sophie would say the same, but absolutely buzzing, absolutely fantastic. Tell you what, he's not bad for a League One striker, is he?
No, he's not. He's pretty decent. Elias Melander for someone who was classified as a League One striker. Brad, I think, love you, Brad. I think big win. I think some people said we won ugly last night. I don't think there's such a thing as an ugly win. A win always looks nice. As opposed to things that do look nice, you don't look as much like an egg as Ross. Ross is a hairy orange. Sophie, how are you on this Saturday morning, which has already devolved into a little bit of chaos?
You know what? It makes such a big difference when the lads win. You wake up and the first thing you think about is the match. Literally, I woke up and I was like, right, recordings. I need to watch. I need to watch the interviews again, just to like immerse myself in the win again. But yeah, it was. It probably wasn't an amazing performance or the best performance we've seen this season, but it's 3 points on the board, a tough place to go, and that's all you can ask.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I do that in the morning when we win. Like if it's a Saturday or what the corresponding day, I'll get up and watch it on the road, and just to see what the lads look like before the game. I'd never tend to do that when we get beat, but yeah, I like immersing myself in Sunderland win. I like Friday night games when we've won because it makes Saturday and Sunday really good, and I tend to have me Saturdays and me Sundays off. Pete, you have not had a week off this week, but I assume it's ended well because of Elias Melander.
Absolutely fantastic. I've been working with German elections for the last week and a bit, so I've not had a minute to myself. So absolutely anything would have been better than that. But what a replacement for talking about the nonsense that is German politics. Sunderland win 2-1 away from home. Elias Melander is, not only does he hate Sam Fender, he's just the big man on campus, isn't he? He's class, love him to bits. Really happy with that, and particularly they were able to close out a match at the end when they were up. How they went about it, we'll probably talk about a little bit more. But yeah, man, over the moon with that. Can't argue at all.
You've never sounded more weary in all your episodes.
I am
knackered.
so tired. I am really, all I'm really glad I don't have to do is try and explain that Friedrich Merz, who is of course the candidate for the Christian Democratic Union, who in federal elections are partnered with the Christian Social Union, who only stand in Bavaria, and just talk about Sunderland, because I feel like I've said that sentence so many times over the last week. But anyway, yeah, football. Let's talk about football, not German politics.
You know how I feel having to say, welcome back to the What the Fuck. This has completely descended into complete chaos, by the way. We brought Sophie on to bring some sort of sensibility here, but it's not worked, has it? It's not worked. Dave, I'll bring you in next. If you're still there, you're not on camera at the minute, so actually maybe I won't do that. I'll go to Pete. Pete, I'll stick with you. The last fortnight's been tough. Let's not deny it, because it's not nice getting beat, and I think we can see the points difference between ourselves and the automatics. Nothing's impossible, but it's been difficult to see us lose, and potentially the automatics become more of a hope or a pipe dream as opposed to a real possibility. But we've talked about the team's ability to respond to games and respond to poor performances continuously released through the past sort of 3-4 years of podcasts that we've done, or pretty much since, I would say, as Dave always attests to, the time when Alex Neil came in. There seems to be a real ability to bounce back. And I think last night was, as some people said, an ugly win. Like I say, I don't think there's such a thing as an ugly win. A win's a win, but I agree with Sophie in the sense that it wasn't the best win of the season in terms of how we performed, but the character that was on show is quite big. I think it would have been quite easy to fold, especially when Sheffield Wednesday scored that goal yesterday.
Yeah, look, I think Sheffield Wednesday are a far better side, certainly, than I gave them credit for, and I think that a lot of people gave them credit for. And it's probably not a lot of that match you're going to make the end of season highlights when eventually we do sneak into the automatic positions, and there's a big media campaign. Probably not a lot of last night's game are going to end up in there, but that's what you've got to do. I mean, look at what the top two sides have done that Sunderland haven't done, is they've put to bed matches against the likes of Sheffield Wednesday and those further down the table. And being able to do that after they came back and got one goal back on us, and then being able to go on not only to get the extra goal, but to close out the game, I think will be good mentally to the players to be able to see that they can do that, because that's been so frustrating. And the last couple of games I haven't been able to watch at all, but I've seen highlights, unfortunately. Again, not many highlights of those, but being able to close out a game like they did last night, I'm really happy to see that, because that's been that will be the what could have been moment for us this season. I think, and when we look back, if it doesn't go right, it'll be, we could have held on past 70 minutes, 75 minutes, 80 minutes in some games. So to be able to see them close it out last night, hopefully that'll be it for the rest of the season. We will just win all the rest of these games and it all ends well.
I think it's a really valid point in that as well. We have conceded too many goals in the last 10 minutes of games and not closed them out. It's one game in isolation that we have done it in the past few weeks, but we have done it, and I think that's massive. There was a part of me that as soon as that clock hit 90, I was like, oh. And I think they got 7 minutes from absolutely nowhere. And I was like, oh, I can feel this coming because of the way the season's gone. Ultimately, the lads actually seen it out really well. And before I forget, because I'm going to go into the changes that were made, but before I forget, I know he was only on the pitch about 10 minutes with the injury time, but I thought Harrison Jones, young boy, came on. He didn't do anything spectacular, but for a lad that came on, I think it's only his second or third appearance. I'm sure it's his first league appearance. Certainly the longest I've seen him on the pitch in terms of the championship. I thought he made some really smart decisions in getting the ball forward, not so much like driving to the corner, but like using up that little bit of time. And if you watch the last 7 minutes, a lot of the game, he actually uses the ball fantastically well. And for a young kid that's got barely any experience at first team level, in a game where, if he'd made a mistake or he'd lost the ball or he didn't look as assured as he did, you probably would have understood it because of his experience. But I thought he was really good. And look, it's always great to see one of our own come through, whether that's Dan Neil playing however many 100 appearances he's made, or Harrison Jones making his third or fourth. So fair play, kid. Really impressed with that, and hopefully he can add to that midfield option towards the end of the season. I'd have no harm with that. If it's a local boy that's good enough to do it, why not? But Sophie, I wanted to talk about the changes a little bit, because there was two that were enforced yesterday, and I listened to the podcast that you did on Saturday, which is always a weird experience for me, but Ross and yourself and Dave were talking about the need to freshen things up, and we were kind of concerned that Regis wasn't going to do it. He was too stubborn. He didn't have much confidence in the bench. Okay, two of them were enforced yesterday with Ballard's injury and Lefay's injury, but Leo Hjelde played his first league game of the season, or started his first league game of the season. Alan Brand came back in for the first time after injury. Mayenda comes in from the start. I believe that Wilson had a slight back knock, so that was maybe enforced as well, but nonetheless, not a bad option. But before we discuss them sort of individually, what did you make, Sophie, of like Regis Lebris finally opting to rest Rig, Wilson and Dennis Cirkin? Probably when we kind of got used to him not doing that and not changing things up.
I think that it was important that he did. I think I'd seen people online when the lineup came out were like, what's this? What's this? Because, like you say, we haven't been used to him doing that. But I think that there were changes that needed changing. Rig was dead on his feet, and I hate shouting at Rig. I want him to do really well, especially, one of our own come through the academy, and he's done amazing this season, he has, but he was running for balls and his legs weren't allowing him to run for balls that he would have got at the beginning of the season. But his changes that he made before the game and in the game, they proved to be right, and that he's learnt from his mistake, and hopefully he continues doing that moving forward, because the substitutions that came on in the game, they gave us energy, and that's what you needed at the end of that game, because it was a bit of a scrappy game. They started putting the balls in behind us, running in behind the wingers, and bringing on someone like Dennis Cirkin. at that point in the game was just what we needed. So I'm glad that he's done that, and I'm glad that he said that, he said we need to learn. I'm glad that he's learned from his mistakes last time, because it's just risking injuries, and in the run-in towards the playoffs, we need momentum. We need to keep going, and we need to keep winning and collecting points. So if the top two fall off, that we're there. If the door opens, we're there, and keeping the pressure on. So I think that he did well with the changes both before and in the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably, if there's any criticism that could be aimed at Reggie Slibreeze this season, I'm not in any way wanting to criticise him, but like, no one's perfect. There's a reason we're all in the Championship. Otherwise, we'd all be top of the Premier League if, we had nothing to learn and nothing to change from. But his in-game management has sometimes been a bit off. His inability to change things has been a bit off this season, and it has affected us over the past few weeks. So I think a few people were like saying that it needed to be changed, and then seeing the lineup and went, "Oh no, I didn't want to change that much." And it's like, I was fully behind it. I was like, "No, you know what? It's fine." I think for someone like Leo Hjelde, who, look, I know he's not hugely rated because of how poor he was last season, but he's quite clearly the vibes guy in the team. We've said that, and I like the fact that he's vibes guy. But he must be watching Serkin, who, let's be honest, has been off it for about 5, 6 weeks, whether that's tiredness, whether it's just lack of form, whatever it is. You can quite clearly see he's not been at it. Yelder must be sitting there thinking, well, I've been a good teammate. I come in and do a job when I need to do it. I've come on for 5 minutes here or there. We've never lost when I've been on the pitch. When am I going to get like just my own shot? He's clearly knackered. Unless he's injured, like, when am I going to get my shot? And he's getting a shot last night. And look, he's got an assist. I know that the control from Mayenda with his palm was fantastic, and fair play to him. But I do think Hjelde did all right last night. Do I think he's the best left back at the club? No, not at all. I think he's probably the third. I think Alessi and Serkin go ahead of him every single time. But for me, he performed well enough. He'll have had a bit of a boost of confidence coming in, getting an assist, playing, the 90 plus minutes. And he's another squad option. And we've talked about how Sheffield United, Burnley and Leeds have a better squad than us. They just do. And there's reasons why they have a better squad than us. Starting 11, I don't think there's much to choose between the top four, to be honest. I think that's been proven in the results between all of us. As a squad, they've got more options to bring off the bench. Whilst our squad options maybe aren't as good as theirs, I do think it's the right time at this point start alternating things around a little bit, just to get a bit of fresh legs in the players. I think when Riggy came on last night, he actually looked a bit more impactful than he had done. And like, I love Riggy, but a 17-year-old kid's going to be knackered. But as a fan, as you said, Sophie, you would only get annoyed at him, but we are sometimes a bit reactionary. When he falls over the ball and you need a goal against Hull, you're like, oh. So I agree. I'm pleased he's changed it. It's kind of what I'm saying in a roundabout way. But Dave, I'll come back to you since you're back on screen. You disappeared when I needed you most. But I touched about Leo being involved in the goal, which I'm delighted with. I would want no one, if there's someone that's going to achieve this season and be class, Leo Hjelde would be the one I would choose, by the way. I don't know why. I just think he seems like a nice lad. But Elias Melander, massive in those two goals. Two great finishes. Okay, there's debate about the first one. I kind of understand Sheffield Wednesday being annoyed with that. Or Sheffield United, as Sky Sports said. I don't know why they'd be annoyed by it. But there was loads of people writing off Mayenda. We made a bit of a joke at the start. But there was a good section of the fan base who wrote him off as recently as December. I wasn't too sure on him last season. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not going to rewrite history with that. I thought he was a failed signing. He didn't really offer much last season. But then I thought I saw something different this season. But then it got to December and he missed that chance against Blackburn. He missed that chance against Stoke. Is Elias Mayenda, Dave, the example of exactly why patience is sometimes required?
Absolutely. And the thing that I'd say about him, especially last night, but in general, it's his overall play. And it's so refreshing. It's so refreshing to have old-fashioned centre forwards, two of them. Yes, I am classing Wilson Isidore as a centre forward. I don't mind eating humble pie when necessary. I don't mind eating pies in general, as we've all seen.
That was in my head, and I thought, don't say it. Don't say it.
Oh, God, yeah. I said before, he's got half a chance of making it as a decent level footballer because he's purely an athlete. I think the fact that he's adding intelligence and knowledge to his game, which we all know comes from experience, it's invaluable. I think he's fantastic. What's that now? 11 goal involvements this season. I love the one where he ran down the right hand side, got the byline, and pulled it back for.
Brilliant that.
Was it
Alan
Job?
Brown?
Well, Alan Brown, yeah.
I think.
It was Alan Brown, and I was like, I wish that was Job on the end of that, because that's a different result for me personally. But that's getting away from it. Yeah, I in a day where centre forwards, other than maybe Earl and Haaland, are all about cutting in from the left, cutting in from the right, and all that type of jazz. It's so nice to have centre forwards who just run in behind towards goal, and I love it. It gives it, and it's almost why some of us were. I'm sure Sunderland as a club and us as fans had kind of in the last couple of years, probably the last 2 years of League One, everyone was still going, can we play 4-4-2? Can we play? And then everyone got it out the head and went, 4-4-2, it's not a thing anymore. Yeah, it's 2025, man. You can't do that. I think there's an argument for it. I genuinely think there's an argument for it. And of course, it'll be a little bit more intricate and it won't quite be 4-4-2 constantly. It'll be 4-3-3 out of possession and blah-de-blah-de-blah. But it's just nice to have two rapid centre forwards running in behind with a bit of an eye for goal and who clearly love playing for the football club. Vibes, absolute vibes. Love it.
I love Elias Melander. Me, when he scored and went straight in the end, I was like, "There's a yellow card." But I was all for it. Didn't mind it. Take a yellow card as long as you're not doing a Ross Wallace and taking your shirt off when you were in a yellow and scoring in the 90th minute twice. Still haven't forgot that. Love Ross Wallace. Pete, we touched on Hjelde's performance there, which I thought was decent. I thought he let too many crosses in. Look, I don't think he's perfect, but like, let's let him off. It's his first league performance of the season. He got an assist and he did the job in the game that we won. And we're yet to lose, I think, when he's been on the pitch this season. So fair play. But I wanted to talk about Alan Brown. I think because he'd been out for so long with the only injury he's had in the past 10 years, which of course he picked up at Sunderland and it was long term. Not that I'd forgot about him, but I kind of had got used to the midfield being, if one of them came out, Sam Ed was playing. And then Alan Brown played last night. And I was like, oh yeah, Alan Brown. I think Alan Brown's performance last night reminded us all of why we were so excited about him in the summer. I thought he had a really good game yesterday. And I think Alan Brown's going to be... And Mundle. Look, we haven't even touched on Mundle. Mundle being back makes such a massive difference in terms of just balance. I think he's a cracking little player. I really, really like him. But Brown and Mundle being back yesterday was Tommy Watson on the way. We've bemoaned injuries. We've got another two, Ballard and Enzo Lefebvre, but there's three players coming back who I think we've seen two of them last night are massively important, aren't they?
Hugely important. Is as important as the biggest signings that will have been brought in this league in the January window. I mean, Alan Brown's got 400 appearances in the Championship. Well, I think in the Championship, they might not all have all been in the Championship. There we go. Yep. You don't get that without being a very, very good central midfielder if that's where you're playing. And he does provide something. I don't think it was his greatest game he'll have at this level or for Sunderland, but I think that's a testament to how good a footballer he is. Look, whether we've seen the best of Sam Ed or whether we've seen the last of Sam Ed, I don't know. But the way Alan Brown gets the ball transitioning is far better for me than what I've seen from Sam Ed, who I thought just slowed everything down a little bit too much. Maybe that's what he'd been told he had to do. But fantastic having a player like Alan Brown coming back. Then you talk about Mundle on the left there. I mean, what a free kick that would have been if it had gone in, the one that he hit. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the ferocity that it was struck with was lovely. Love a bit of that. And, Mundle also with his pace, he always provides a huge, huge threat. I was really glad to see him not afraid to go in with the big lunge as well. If you've had that type of hamstring injury, you can always be like, oh, do I dare stretch for something? Do I dare? He clearly feels confident enough that he's willing to put everything on the line there. And that's what you want. Hopefully he can get back to where he was, because where he was, well, everybody was saying, what, Jack who? And forgetting all about him. And we've shown the reason why Tottenham Hotspur apparently rated him higher than Jack Clark and were prepared to let Jack Clark go at the time. But, very happy with them coming back. Can't wait to get Lefebvre and Ballard back as well now.
one of the main questions we had from listeners revolved around a player that I think I probably I don't think I gave him stick, but I thought he had a sticky start of the season and I was questioning the position he was playing. I don't know when it started, but the boy's on another planet for me. And I said it last season, I thought he was our best player. Dan Neil. Like, one of the questions was loads of questions about him, Pete, but I think the best one said, can you just discuss how good Dan Neil was last night? And then there was another one saying, how influential has he become? For me, when Dan Neil's on form, which he has been for a number of weeks now, he's comfortably our best player. Comfortably. And I think his ability on the ball, there was a few times yesterday when he got the ball, and we were watching it in the pub in Glasgow with the Scotland supporters branch, and some people going, pass it, pass it. And I was like, just let him go, just let him glide. He knows what he's doing. He's going to get to a point and win a free kick. There you go. He's won a free kick. He's buying you a bit more time. But some of his like the lad's ability to find the right pass at the right time and wait it perfectly is above the level of the championship. And it absolutely terrifies me that his contract's not been sorted yet. I know they've said they're going to sit and wait on it. But for me, Dan Neil has now sat into that position, which I didn't know if he was good enough to be played in. I thought he was better further ahead. I think Dan Neil is now an excellent number six, and I think he's our best player and our best midfielder. But how much did that evidence that last night, Pete?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I love the word that you used to describe it as glide. Let him glide, and that's what he does with it, and it's beautiful to watch. And it also seems to be unplayable to come up against because it doesn't matter who it's been in this league. When he does get that going, it's right what you say. It transitions the ball forward. Almost certainly, he's getting a free kick at some point because he puts them in a position, puts the defender in a position that all they can do is bring him down. Look, what we're seeing is probably this season, Dan Neil shows that there is levels of completely above where where Sunderland have been playing and where he's played with Sunderland, where his career will lead him to. Hopefully, it's with Sunderland for as long as it possibly can be. I'm equally as terrified that his contract wasn't sewn up in the January. I was kind of hoping that was going to be not want to appease the fans, because they don't just chuck these contracts around anymore, which we're very grateful for because the piss take party that we had to go through. But for all he got wrong, it's a great phrase. But look, Dan Neil is a footballer that has an incredibly high ceiling in the modern game. I just hope it's with Sunderland for as long as possible because what we're seeing at the moment is them turning into another level up of his game this season, and it's great to watch. I'm happy to see it. When he plays well, Sunderland play well. Similar with Job. If you get him and Job playing well, there's not a team in that league can touch them.
I think you're right in what you say there with Dan Neil. He's just a nice footballer to watch. There's something about a player like that. No, he reminds me of, and I think this is probably not giving him as much credit as some people think he deserves. But I still love watching Key. I thought the weight of Key's pass. I thought the ability to control the game in a level above Daniel has played so far. Like it's not a disparaging comment to say he's similar to Key, but I used to love watching Key, and it was the way he glided across the pitch, his weight of pass, his choice of pass. I think Dan Neil's well on the way to surpassing him, obviously, to be completely honest, but I do feel that play very similar in the way that they glide, and I rate both of them hugely highly. And I know that might be a bit of a random comparison, but, that's a comparison I'm giving you, so if you don't like it, shove it up your arse. Sophie, I'll move on to you quickly before you offend any more listeners. A 300th appearance for Luke O'Nien last night, 250,000 pennies from Wickham, now a regular in the Championship. Look, I know there's some people who don't rate him as highly. I certainly do. But how big of an achievement is that for a player, especially in the modern day where I know he's not a one-team player, but players don't really stay at clubs through different divisions, through different positions and play 300 games at that level?
Yeah, absolutely. Like no one does, and you don't see it anymore. And I think it was the video that the club put up afterwards of Dan Neil giving him the shirt that said 300, and Dan had said, "You epitomise everything what the club's about." And he absolutely does. And that's on and off the pitch, and he's just a character, obviously, in the dressing room, on the pitch, and off as well in terms of the community. And I've met him a couple of times, and he's just just a lovely man. Like, he's really interested in what you've got to say. Everything that he gives for Sunderland, he wears his heart on his sleeve. There has been times where I've questioned where he's playing in the team, but one thing I'll never question is his effort, and he gives 110%. And his appearances, I hope, are only going to go up, because he knows that the fans would, I think he said it before, would give anything to be in his position and play for Sunderland on the pitch. So if he can represent us, and I think that's what he does really well. He represents us. He represents the fans. I think in the Wembley final, when we got promoted, and he had that tackle, and he went, yeah, and cheered after he did it. And he's a special, special player for us. Regardless of where he plays, in what division he plays, he'll make himself, if he hasn't already, an icon of the football club. And he will go down as, not many players stick around for that amount of time. I know myself, me and my brother, we've probably spot the club in our worst period of time ever, as opposed to what my dad's probably seen and what you guys have seen. But when you have players like that, they make it a little bit more special, them dark times. And Luke O'Nien's one of them players.
I think with O'Nien, I've seen a few comments of people saying, oh, I hope he doesn't get another 300. I hope he doesn't make it to 400 and stuff. Do I think he's a Premier League player? No, I don't. But do I trust that he'll just step up anyway? Yeah, sometimes I do. And I know some people don't rate him. I know some people really, really don't. And they're entitled to that opinion. Of course they are. But for me, O'Nien, I heard a lot of people say, oh, I'll never make the step up to the Championship. And here we are 3 seasons later, and he's still in the team week in, week out at centre half when we signed him as I think a number 10. Looking back, I think O'Nien's ability to get the best out of himself is a real example to a lot of young boys in that team. And I think he probably offers a lot more than some people actually think. It's not just about him smiling. He's a lovely lad. You're 100% right. I don't know how many people know this, but when I proposed to Ashley in 2021, thankfully via Jack Baldwin, I got Luke O'Nien to do it for me, and I sent him a script, and he just went off script and did his entire own thing, which, look, it's very, very funny. I know some people have seen it, but I give him a nice script of what to do, and he just went off script entirely, did his own thing, and then it was better than the script I give him. And then he rang later on FaceTime to congratulate us and stuff like that. And look, people might say, "Oh, well, that's why you like him. That's why you're biased." No, I think O'Nien's been poor not that long ago, and I actually called for him to be dropped from Ballard and met him more fit, and I won't change that. And I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. But for me, what O'Nien offers is a personality and his ability to constantly want to better himself and constantly want to learn, despite the fact that he's veering towards 30. I think is massive, because I think there's so many young players in the squad that'll look at someone like him and go, well, hang on, he came as a League Two player, had a horrible debut, and now he's playing every week and he's made 300. Oh, I want to do that. And I think that's massive for a squad that's so young, to show the honour it is to play for Sunderland Association Football Club. And for me, I'm quite happy to have that around the club as long as it needs to be around. And you'll see no qualms with me if Luke O'Nien stays with us for another 300 appearances. And if you disagree with that, that's completely fine. But that's just my opinion, and I've given my reasons behind it. But we have one thing we haven't discussed. Dave, I'll come back to you with this. When did Trai Hume turn into Trent Alexander-Arnold? And if Wilson didn't have a 50 pence head last weekend, would he have had 2 absolutely fucking quality assists in the past fortnight?
Yeah, but again, another one who, I know he's divided opinion at times. I think he's had a bit of a different.
I don't understand that. I don't mean to interject, but I don't understand it. That I don't understand the Trai Hume stuff. I've seen it recently, and I just don't get it. The amount of assists he provides, and the things that I think people pick out with Trai Hume, for me, are stuff that Championship defenders are going to do. He's not perfect, but for me, he's as perfect as he can be for us.
Yeah, I think we both agreed several seasons ago that we thought he'd end up being a Premier League right back at some point. I still stand by it. Hopefully it's with us. But I the more I see him, and I think he's brought different elements to his game this year, and that's what happens coming under different managers and stuff like that. It's just adding more, kind of strings to his bow. And I mean, that cross last night was absolutely inch perfect. It was fantastic. I see a lot of. He reminds me of a lot younger Seamus Coleman. I think he's brilliant. I can see the comparisons personally.
Good comparison, that.
And I think he will end up being just as good as Seamus Coleman was. And I think Seamus Coleman was massively, massively underrated at his peak. So, yeah, I think he's brilliant. Again, someone who loves putting a winger in the stand. But when you can put someone in the stand and then also pick out a cross like that, Sheffield Wednesday defender was disgusting, by the way. Almost as bad as I was for their equaliser, to be fair. But
the one time you want Pato to not come. By the way,
unbelievable, isn't it? We said in the chat last night, it's like the one time you think, don't even try and come. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying he wouldn't get into it anywhere, but he'd probably give himself a statistically better chance if he just stayed on his line. So, Pato, do what you want to do, mate. No one cares. We won the game.
By the way, Trai Hume, talking of improvements from last season to this season, look, the league position's enough, but Trai Hume got 1 assist in the league last year. He's got 6 already this year. Got only 1 last year. And a stat which has been sent in by Brad, love you Brad, second time in the pod. Last season, Hamir, Burstow, Rusin, and Mayenda, 5 goals and assists between them last season. This season, Isidore and Mayenda, 24 goal contributions. Just them two. Sick. That's pretty good. I like that. It's very good. We've got a couple of listeners' questions. Dead straightforward ones. Kind of touched them already, but a little bit of difference. Pete, 4-4-2. Is there a point when we prioritise fitness over the best 11? And if we do go 4-4-2, who's your midfield for?
I would love them to go 4-4-2. I realise that it's not going to be the 4-4-2 that I have in my mind from the 90s, but it's who's my midfield for?
Summerby on the right, Johnson on the left, Kevin Ball
exactly.
Alex Ray in the middle.
Bracewell and Alex Ray. No,
what's he off the bench?
Exactly. Mundell starting out left. I am going Job and Neil in the middle. And I'm going Patrick Roberts outright. And I'm giving Patrick a bit more time. I thought he got so unlucky last night with so many little things that if he just, it had just beaten that toe of a defender, a heel of a defender, if the ball had span a certain way instead of the way it span, he would have been in with a better shout. That's my midfield for.
When you said you want to give him a little bit of time there, am I the only one who had that Limmy sketch in his head when he's at the Clyde side and he's like, gonna take a little time to think things over. You only understand that if you're a Limmy fan, but if you're not a Limmy fan, that means nothing to you. But here we are. I agree, probably largely. I'm a massive fan of Chris Rigg, but I think it's completely normal and okay for Chris Rigg to not play every single game at the age of 17.
Hell of a lot of football for anybody's first season. And, he also, the lad didn't get any summer last year, did he, at all? Because he was playing with England, the England Bairns.
Yeah.
And look, it's a hell of a lot of football to keep on playing. As Sophie was saying earlier on, there's times you just, because you don't want to, you can't call Chris Rigg. The lad's an absolute phenom and he's ours. But you're thinking, your body's just not doing what you want it to do, young'un. And I'm happy that we're in a position whereby you can give Chris Rigg a break. And if Job isn't cutting it or Dan Neil isn't cutting it in a game, you've got Alan Brown that can come in. And if you still need somebody to come on the field, then, if Sam Ed's around, he might as well get a game. He's paid his subs.
Is there not an argument as well to say, like before he got injured, we were all absolutely buzzing about Tommy Watson. He played right wing against Preston, wasn't great, okay, but that was his first start, I think. But I think if you look league start anyway, but if you look at like you want another option for Patrick Roberts, and like I don't know where
Yeah.
Paveda was last night again, probably.
No. Better not ask.
I mean, I just give up with that. Like, I don't mind Paveda, but whenever I go, oh, he's all right. He just suddenly goes missing off the bench, and I'm like, all right, sound. Like, and I'm just like, what's he done this week? He's obviously done something where he's on the bench and not on the bench, missed a meeting or something. I don't know. But Paveda's not going to be an option on a permanent
just
basis.
kind of imagine that Reggie's somewhere like a 1970s, 80s sitcom where he's just like, he's done what? Get him in here. Paveda! You just hear a shout come from his office and Ian's there late again. Tommy Watson is a very good shout on the right because I do think, and I've
Just
said it
another
before,
option, isn't it?
yeah, it's, if you give Patrick Roberts competition, you give him something to play for, you get the best out of him, whether it was a new contract, whether it was, proving himself at a club after having been bounced around for so long. And I think giving him being pushed by somebody who has the undoubtable quality that Tommy Watson has probably might get us the best out of what you may call him, out of Paddy, but let's see. I'm not sure. Regis has a plan, and his plan will not be broken. And if sticking Tommy Watson on the right isn't part of that plan, I can't see it happening at all.
It is good. It is good. Dave, I'll let you have the final word, mate, since you came all clean shaven. Oh God,
I look hanging, mate. Horrid. Anyway, Dave's not like an egg. I meant to say, Dave looks like a kiwi fruit at the moment.
The final listener's question is, do we stick with the same starting 11 that we played tonight, i.e. Friday against Sheffield Wednesday against Cardiff, or do you change things up again?
Change it up, go 4-4-2. Bring back the 4-4-2.
What's your 4-4-2 then? What's your goalkeeper? Are you going Pato?
Yeah, we'll leave Pato in goal, I suppose.
Right back, Trai.
Yeah, absolutely. Back. Oh, Leo's just bouncing. So
Leo,
if we potentially got an issue at left back, if someone needs a bit of a rest for whatever reason that may be, then let's leave Leo at left back.
I think, to be honest, like when it comes to Sergen, he's not been good enough the past few weeks, and
no, absolutely not.
Leo did all right yesterday, so for me, it's a shirt to lose at the minute. We will place Mepham and O'Nien at centre half. Your midfield four.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much nailed it, haven't we? What you alluded to earlier about Rig, the little cameo. Oh, there's a couple of crunching challenges he's put in. I'm like, oh, he's feeling this. He's only got a 10-minute cameo, and he's just like he wants to rive into someone.
Rig off the bench is fine by me.
Yeah, I'd be happy. So I think that four, and then weirdly, not that many people would expect it, but Craig Russell and Eli Mayenda up top. Happy with it.
Yeah.
Happy with it.
No, Craig Russell's a mag these days. You can get knotted. You're not playing Craig Russell.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Forget about that.
Martin Smith. Right, lads, lasses, thanks very much for joining this chaos. To be honest, we shall never, ever do this chaos at 9:30 in the morning ever again.
Yeah, great to get it in that one, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.